They don't want you to know about the forbidden diesel parts that outlast modern engines. Right now, big companies are trying to turn your boat into a subscription service you cannot fix yourself. They want you trapped behind software locks and factory-only sensors. But there is a secret world of Iron Age engineering that is completely unregulatable. We are talking about simple mechanical parts, honest iron and steel, that are so tough they make a brand new engine that costs $30,000 look like a plastic toy. I have seen these parts keep running after being buried in salt water, while a modern computer-controlled diesel would be a total write-off. There is one specific forbidden part that allows a 50-year-old engine to keep breathing even when the rest of the world stops. But why is the industry so scared of a piece of metal you can buy at a tractor store for $50? Are you ready to stop being a subscriber and start being a sovereign sailor? A modern diesel engine does not just burn fuel, it waits for permission. Every start, every revolution depends on a silent chain of sensors and microprocessors. The crankshaft position sensor, the cam sensor, the fuel rail pressure transducer all report to the electronic control unit, or ECU. This is the brain, but also the warden. If the crank sensor fails, the engine will not even cough. A 50-cent wire break, and you are dead in the water. No override, no limp mode, just a cold silence as the starter spins and nothing fires. It is not just the sensors. The entire fuel system is enslaved to digital command. The CAN bus, the nervous system of the engine, links every sensor and every actuator through a single fragile communications line. A voltage spike, a corroded connector, or a single checksum error, and the CAN bus collapses. The ECU loses track of the engine's heartbeat. Safety routines take over, and the system locks itself down. No start, no diagnostics, nothing but a code on a proprietary screen. In this world, the mechanic is powerless without a factory-issued laptop. Even a seasoned engineer with every tool in the box is locked out by software. The ECU demands a handshake with the right sensor, the right firmware, the right encrypted key. If a cam sensor drifts out of spec, the engine drops into safe mode or refuses to run. If the fuel rail pressure sensor glitches, the injectors shut off. The engine is not broken, it is forbidden to operate until a dealer resets the code. This is the digital noose. It is invisible, but it tightens with every new model year. The sailor who once carried spares and a wrench now faces a wall of screens and error codes. The stakes are highest when the horizon is empty and the ocean's invoice is coming due. On a dark night, 500 miles from help, the difference between honest iron and digital silence is not just technical, it is existential. 500 miles from shore, the ocean does not negotiate. When a modern diesel falls silent out there, the crew isn't just stranded, they are at the mercy of the elements, the clock, and a price tag that grows by the hour. The sovereign sailor knows this fear. One broken sensor, one line of corrupted code, and a vessel that should have been a fortress becomes a liability. The radio crackles with the hollow comfort of a distant voice. Stand by for tow authorization. The numbers are staggering. A single ocean tow, even at the lowest published rates, can run into 5 figures before the hull ever sees port. There are documented cases where a recovery of 500 miles crosses the $25,000 mark, not counting the salvage surcharge or the fuel burned by the rescue tug. Insurance adjusters call it an act of God, but for the crew, it is a reckoning, an ocean's invoice delivered in real time. The emotional toll is harder to tally. Sleep comes in fits, broken by the thud of waves and the knowledge that help is days away. The captain replays every maintenance decision, every spare part left behind, each one now a regret. Crew members argue over satellite phone minutes, ration fresh water, and stare at a horizon that offers no answers. The sense of helplessness is total. In the logbooks, these are the entries written with shaking hands, the ones that never make it into the glossy brochures. They are warnings, carved in salt and time. Never trust a system you can't fix with your own hands. This is why the sovereign sailor carries more than just hope. They carry honest iron, tools and parts that do not ask permission from a server farm or a dealer's laptop. The difference between waiting for rescue and getting underway is often a matter of competence, preparation, and the right part in the right locker. Out here, self-reliance is not a lifestyle, it is survival. The ocean does not care about warranties or software updates. It rewards the mariner who can bleed a line, swap a pump, or jury-rig a fix when the manuals run out of answers. The price of being unprepared is measured in dollars, dignity, and sometimes in lives. The sovereign sailor pays that invoice in advance by refusing to trust their fate to a digital noose. A mechanical injection pump is more than a component. It is the heart that never asked permission from a silicon gatekeeper. On the Perkins 41108, the pump sits proud and exposed, driven directly by the camshaft, indifferent to software, immune to digital lockout. 2 bolts hold the pump to the block. Remove them, and the entire assembly lifts free in one piece, heavy in the hand, gears and governor intact. There are no hidden fasteners, no security screws, no wires leading to a proprietary plug. The timing marks are stamped into steel, visible to the naked eye, waiting for a mechanic's chalk or a fingernail to confirm alignment. This is the kind of design that lets a sailor become their own salvation. If the pump wears, if the idle grows rough, or the governor linkage slackens, a rebuild kit from any agricultural supplier will contain every seal, plunger, and spring. The modular design means the pump can be swapped at sea with nothing more than a socket set and a steady hand. Each part tells its story in wear patterns: a polished cam lobe, a scored plunger, a governor spring that still snaps back with authority after decades. There is no need for a laptop, no waiting on a dealer's encrypted reset. The 4.1008's pump is the same unit fitted to Massey Ferguson tractors and John Deere workhorses, sold under different part numbers, but forged from the same honest iron. That is the secret the corporate vampires do not want you to know. Your marine engine's lifeblood flows from the same veins as the machines that feed the world. When you carry a spare pump, you are not just prepared, you are sovereign. You are free from the digital noose, ready to pay the ocean's invoice in sweat and skill, not in ransom to a software subscription. A manual primer is the sovereign sailor's handshake with honest iron. It's a ritual that revives an engine when digital systems have gone dark. There's no software here, no encrypted handshake, just the direct language of steel, fuel, and the human hand. The drill begins at the fuel line. The sailor locates the primer, whether it's a lever, a squeeze bulb, or a piston plunger. The lever type, common on Perkins 41108s, sits just downstream of the filter. Each stroke draws fuel from the tank, compresses it past a spring-loaded check valve, and pushes it forward, banishing air from the line. The sound is tactile, a click, a hiss, a pulse of resistance as the chamber fills and empties. With a squeeze bulb, the action is rhythmic, a steady compression that builds pressure and tests the line for leaks or blockages. If the bulb stays collapsed, there's an airlock or a venting problem. If it refills with each release, the check valves are holding and the system is sound. The goal is simple and absolute: a bubble-free stream of fuel at the filter's bleed port. The sailor cracks the vent, works the primer, and watches for froth to give way to clear, unbroken liquid. On the Perkins 41108, this moment is unmistakable. A steady drip becomes a solid stream, and the fuel gauge needle flickers upward. The vent is closed, the primer wiped clean, and the line inspected for weeping joints. Any sign of a persistent leak at the check valve means a spring is tired or a seat is worn. But these are parts that can be swapped in minutes, with replacements pulled from a tractor store at half the marine price. This is not just a maintenance task, it's a sovereign act. With a primed line, the engine is ready to answer the call, indifferent to dead sensors or a bricked ECU. The sailor knows that, with each pump, They are clearing the path for honest iron to do its work. The ocean's invoice is paid in sweat and skill, not in ransom to a corporate vampire. Out here, the primer is the difference between drifting and making way, between helplessness and command. That is the legacy of the Iron Age, a machine that answers only to the hand that built it and the mind that remembers how it works. Gravity is the oldest fuel pump in the world, and still the most reliable. On a true Iron Age diesel, a header tank perched just 2 feet above the engine can deliver all the fuel pressure you will ever need. No wires, no relays, no software to say no. The math is simple. A 0.6 meter head gives you about 2 pounds per square inch at the inlet, enough to feed a Perkins 4.108 at full throttle, even in heavy seas. The tank itself is a plain steel or polyethylene cylinder, vented to atmosphere, with a sight glass running down the side. The sight glass is not just a convenience, it is a window into your own preparedness. A quick glance reveals the truth: air in the line, water at the bottom, or a clean amber column that says, "You are ready to make way." Installation is a lesson in practical engineering. The tank is lashed high in the engine room, secured against roll and pitch. The supply line runs down to a ball valve isolation fitting, a real mechanical cutoff, not a digital switch. With the valve closed, you can service the filter, swap out a line, or bleed the system without draining the tank. Open it, and the fuel flows by gravity alone, straight to the filter and onto the pump. For safety, a spring-loaded anti-siphon valve sits just below the tank outlet. This is not optional. If the boat heels or a fitting fails, the anti-siphon snaps shut, stopping fuel from flooding the bilge or backing up into the tank. Classification rules demand it, and any surveyor worth his salt will check for a vented overflow and a proper backflow preventer. Every gravity feed retrofit includes a checklist: secure mounting, vented cap, sight glass inspection, ball valve isolation, anti-siphon protection. No corners cut, no trust in luck. The system is tested by shutting down the electric pump, closing the old supply, and running the engine on gravity alone. If the Perkins fires and holds idle, the sovereign sailor knows they have earned one more layer of independence. Out here, honest iron and a well-placed tank are worth more than any warranty. The ocean's invoice is coming, and gravity always pays its debts. At the end of a long workbench, the forensic engineer lays out 2 nearly identical parts: a manual fuel primer stamped with a tractor supplier's code, and its so-called marine twin, branded with blue and white packaging and a price tag to match. The difference is not in the steel, but in the story told at the register. At Foley, a manual primer for the Perkins 4.108, OEM number ULPK0014, lists for $38. The same basic part, relabeled for marine use, climbs to $300 or more at a yacht chandlery. Diesel parts. Direct, a mainline supplier, offers the same plunger assembly for $35 to $60, depending on the finish. The receipts stack up. A John Deere squeeze bulb, $42 from a tractor dealer, becomes a $310 marine fuel bulb with a new sticker and a promise of salt resistance. The catalog screenshots are plain as day, part numbers cross-referenced, diagrams matching down to the last circlip. These aren't knockoffs or counterfeit swaps, they are the same parts, forged in the same factories, sold to farmers and fishermen alike. The myth of marine exclusivity crumbles under the cold eye of the invoice. The sovereign sailor knows this game. Every dollar saved on honest iron is a dollar denied to the corporate vampire. The real scandal is not scarcity, but markup, a forbidden knowledge that keeps the prepared afloat while others bleed out at the parts counter. When the ocean's invoice arrives, it's the sailor who shops at the tractor store who's ready to pay in sweat, not in ransom. On a battered workbench, a hardened steel injection pump sits in a tray of salt water, the surface crusted with crystals after a month-long soak. This is not a lab experiment. It is a survival test straight from the field. After 30 days submerged, the pump is rinsed, dried, and bolted back onto a Perkins 4108. The result is 150 hours of continuous running, no leaks, no stutter, no hidden corrosion. The cam lobes show their original polish. The governor spring snaps back with the same bite as the day it left the factory. It is not just theory, it is evidence written in steel and oil. Marine survey reports out of the UK and Australia tell the same story. Engines pulled from sunken hulls were cleaned, regasketed, and fired back to life. The mechanical governor's spring holds its tension. Camshaft lobes show only the faintest pitting, and the oversized bearings keep their oil film even after years of neglect. These components are durable. One restoration blog chronicled a 4.108 left on a salt-sprayed pier for decades. After a strip-down and basic service, it ran for 150 hours before the first injector tweak. The Sovereign Sailor's testimony makes it plain, these parts are not just durable, they are survivors. In a world where electronics drown in brine and software locks out the desperate, honest iron endures. The ocean's invoice comes due for everyone, but the sailor who trusts in indestructible steel pays in sweat, not surrender. A new reality is settling over the marine world. Engines now require a yearly data subscription to run, and a missing software token can silence a vessel as surely as a broken shaft. By 2026, the EPA and Department of Justice will treat any tampering with OEM telemetry or bypassing a subscription lock as a federal offense, with six-figure fines and the threat of losing vessel certification. Classification societies have already added digital integrity clauses to their rules, making cloud handshake failures grounds for denying registration renewal. Preparation starts at the engine room door. The mechanical injection pump, free of wires and sensors, offers reliability that cannot be revoked by a server glitch. The manual primer, whether lever or squeeze bulb, must be within reach and working. A gravity-fed backup line from a vented tank above the engine is checked for flow. Every fitting is inspected for leaks, valves are cycled, and the anti-siphon is tested for spring. The spare locker holds tractor store injectors, a replacement primer, fuel hose, and a gasket kit, none locked behind a paywall. Readiness is not tradition, but necessity. The checklist is the last defense against a world where software, not salt, decides who gets home. The test begins with every wire to the ECU unplugged, every sensor left dangling, every digital leash cut. Only honest iron remains, mechanical pump, manual primer, gravity-fed fuel line. The Sovereign Sailor stands at the throttle, hand steady, eyes on the tachometer. One twist of the key and the Perkins 4.108 answers not to software, but to steel and fuel. Compression builds, injectors click, and the engine catches on the first revolution. A raw, unfiltered start. No error codes, no handshake required. The needle climbs to 1,800 RPM and holds. The sound is not just mechanical, it is ancestral. Each combustion stroke is a verdict against the digital noose. For the next hour, the engine runs at sea trial load, indifferent to the absence of electronics. Oil pressure holds, exhaust stays clean, the governor keeps rhythm. The only data needed is the feel of the block, the smell of warm oil, the certainty of power delivered by gears and springs. This is sovereignty proven in real time. The ocean's invoice arrives, and it is paid in sweat and skill, not in ransom to a corporate vampire. Out here, independence is not a slogan, it is the sound of honest iron turning fuel into freedom. Tonight, the digital noose tightens, but honest iron still answers the ocean's invoice. Every indestructible injection pump or gravity-fed line, sourced from a tractor store, not a corporate ledger, is a vote for sovereignty at sea. As software locks spread, the price of real independence rises. Out here, competence is currency, and the prepared mariner never pays the corporate vampire twice. What is in your engine room when the screens go dark?